Are you looking to catch up on all the latest Blue Jays action? Have tickets for this weekend but totally missed the last series on the road? You are in the right place. This is Station to Station, our Blue Jays series recap show here on Organized Chaos Sports. Following a sweep of the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Blue Jays moved to Philadelphia to take on the Phillies for a quick two-game set. Could they salvage their road trip and come home on a winning note? Stay tuned to find out. Thank you for listening, and we hope that you enjoy. Welcome to Station, your Jays series recap show. I am back flying solo for this episode for the quick two-game series versus the Philadelphia Phillies. The Jays come into this series 21-14, so that has them at third in the AL East. And we have no roster changes. The lineup for the game number one, we have left to right Varsho, Kiermaier, and Whit Merrifield in the outfield. Third base over around the horn to first. We have Matt Chapman, Bo Bichette, Espinal, and of course Vladdy at first. Our catcher in this game is Alejandro Kirk, and Brandon Belt is the DH. Our pitching matchup, Alek Manoah versus Aaron Nola. Manoah comes into this game 1-2 with a 4.71 ERA. He has 36.1 innings pitched this season with 31 strikeouts and a whip of 1.65. So Aaron Nola gets us underway at 6:42 p.m., but the game remains scoreless until the top of the third, where Kevin Kiermaier comes up and doubles to left field. Following that, Santiago Espinal has a sac bunt, which pushes Kevin Kiermaier to third, and Bo Bichette then follows with an RBI double to center field, which of course scores Kevin Kiermaier from third. So that inning ends 1-0. Now in the bottom of the fourth, Bryce Harper walks for the Phillies, and then Nick Castellanos steps up and crushes a two-run home run to left field. That brings the inning and game to 2-1. Bottom of the fifth, the Phillies score another run on an RBI single, and the game is now 3-1. Following that run, we have our first pitching change of the game for the Jays, where Tim Mayza replaces Alek Manoah. Manoah's pitching line in this game, 4.2 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 walks, and 1 strikeout. So unfortunately, not really a great outing for Manoah. He has 1 walk per inning, only 1 strikeout, and of course, the 3 earned runs. Top of the 6th, Bo steps to the plate and hits a solo home run to right center field. So that half inning ends 3-2. Bottom of the 6th now, Nate Pearson comes on to replace Tim Mayza. Following that, the Phillies score off a sac fly, bringing the game to 4-2. There is a Phillies single following that, which brings the game to 5-2. And then we have another pitching change in the bottom of the 6th, where Trevor Richards replaces Nate Pearson. Top of the 7th now, the Jays respond, where Whit has a single, Kevin Kiermaier singles, Espinal unfortunately strikes out. Bo reaches on an error where Whit scores. Vladdy is then hit by a pitch. Springer, who comes on as a pinch hitter for Dalton Varsho, then strikes out. And Matt Chapman is hit by a pitch. And that inning ends 5-4 as a runner scores when Chapman got hit by that pitch. Bottom of the 8th now, we have another pitching change where Swanson comes on to replace Trevor Richards with the bases loaded. And unfortunately, Brandon Marsh for the Phillies has a 2 RBI double, and the Phillies score another on a fielder choice, bringing the inning and the game ends 8-4. So our winning pitcher is Aaron Nola. Our losing pitcher is Alek Manoah. Manoah's now 1-3 with a 4.83 ERA and a 1.66 WHIP. This game seemed to have some mismanagement, unfortunately, from John Schneider in a couple particular circumstances. The first circumstance of mismanagement seemed to have been when George Springer came on to pinch hit for Dalton Varsho. I probably would have left Varsho in the game. He's been hitting quite well of late. Now that doesn't mean that he would have been successful, but bringing Springer in the game when he was scratched from the lineup and was sick seemed to be not really a great move, and it really ended up in a pathetic at bat. The second circumstance where I thought there was some real mismanagement in this game was in the bottom of the eighth, where Eric Swanson came on to replace Trevor Richards. Now, Trevor Richards had a good outing in this game, but he did run into some trouble in the bottom of the eighth. And this was actually, he was into his second inning of pitching. So a little bit longer outing than normal. But John Schneider waited until Trevor Richards had loaded the bases to bring Eric Swanson on. And, while Eric Swanson is arguably our best reliever, I don't really see why you would have waited that long. I think the hook should have come possibly after a single base runner, and then you really give Swanson some wiggle room. There was no wiggle room, and Brandon Marsh did hit that 2-run double, breaking open the game. So I think these are a couple things that we should keep an eye on throughout the season, is that John Schneider does seem to wait possibly a little long to make changes in the bullpen, and but leading up to that, he seems to not have pitchers ready, because I would have had Eric Swanson ready to go should anything happen in that game. If Trevor Richards kept on plowing through the Phillies, then you don't need to bring Swanson on, but have him ready so that if a base runner gets on, then you can make that move and limit any sort of damage. Because in the bottom of the eighth, the game was 5-4, so it's a 1-run game. Following that, that inning ends 8-4, which really just broke the Jays back. Moving into game number 2, our lineup for this game, left to right in the outfield: Dalton Varsho, Kevin Kiermaier, and Cavan Biggio. In the infield, from third to first around the horn, Matt Chapman, Bo Bichette, and Whit Merrifield. And then over at first, Vladdy Guerrero. Behind the plate in this game, Danny Jansen, and our DH again is Brandon Belt. Pitching matchup, Kevin Gausman versus Zach Wheeler. Gausman comes into this game 2-3 with a 3.86 ERA, 42 innings pitched, and 58 strikeouts in those innings, with a 1.19 WHIP. Zach Wheeler gets this game underway at 4:08 p.m. in the top of the first, and the game stays scoreless until the top of the fifth, when Brandon Belt leads off with a solo home run to right field. In the bottom of the seventh, we have our first pitching change, with Jimmy Garcia replacing Kevin Gausman. Bottom of the eighth, another pitching change when Eric Swanson replaces Jimmy Garcia. Bottom of the ninth, with the Jays up 1-0, Jordan Romano comes on to replace Swanson. Unfortunately, Romano blows the save, and the Phillies tied the game 1-1. In the bottom of the 10th, we have another pitching change where Tim Meza comes on to replace Jordan Romano. The Jays end up losing this game 2-1, and the Phillies with a walk-off win. I think the story of the bottom of the 10th is really an error that leads to the Phillies winning the game. So let me set the scene. The bases are loaded, there's one out. Tim Mesa is on the mound. Game is teetering in the balance. But Tim Mesa is able to get the Phillies batter to hit a comebacker to the mound, which he fields successfully and spins to throw to second base, getting a force out. Bo Bichette fields that play and flips it over to first to attempt to complete the double play, but his throw is terrible. He yanks this throw. I think the throw actually ended up in the bounce and ended up in the stands, and the Philly that was on third base essentially walks in and scores the winning run, and the Phillies win 2-1. We've seen Bo Bichette make throws like this in the past, but he has been pretty good to start this season. I thought this was quite disheartening, though, as the Jays had this game in their hands and just let it slip in the bottom of the ninth and bottom of the 10th inning. The Jays now come home for a 10-game homestand and open in a 3-game series versus the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves are 25-12 and first in the NL East. Our pitchers for this series will be Chris Bassett on Friday, Jose Berrios on Saturday, and Yusei Kikuchi on Sunday. This should be a very interesting series to see how the Jays fare against a top team. The Braves are no paper tiger, and this should be a very tough series. But thankfully it is at home, so hopefully the home support will push the Jays on to a series win. Thanks everyone for listening, and until next time. This has been Station to Station here on Organized Chaos Sports. We will be back on Monday to discuss the weekend series versus the Atlanta Braves. If you enjoyed this episode, we ask that you share it with one friend that you think may enjoy it as well. Thanks for listening, and until next time.